each and every person had towards health-related issues has undergone a grand transformation. This transformation, I'm sure, will continue in the times to come because of the simple reason that we have an adversary today at our hands, which is invisible, but indeed very, very potentially dangerous. The danger emanates not only from the immediate impact, but also the psychological and other kinds of impact that COVID actually has on the population as such. Today, it is my proud privilege to welcome Parvathy, who is a student at the Banaras Hindu University, as I already referred to. And further, I would also like to mention that I have been seeing Parvathy for maybe the last 6 to 7 years at the least. And I have always seen that she has an enthusiasm and a flavor for research. And that has been brought about in this particular presentation also, which you will see shortly. She has been a very bright student. All throughout her academic life, she has been performing excellently well. And that is one of the reasons that when I requested Parvathy, I had in mind a person who is genuinely interested in research and who is in the forefront of actually researching aspects which we are confronted today. That is the COVID itself. So it is my proud privilege to actually welcome Parvathy to this this program. I'm sure we will all be greatly benefited from the kind of enthusiastic presentation that she's going to before us today. And I'm sure this presentation will indeed be a kind of eye-opener for all of us who are all laymen as far as this particular aspect is concerned. So welcome, Parvathy. It is our privilege and honor to have you with us. Let me now welcome Mohan Menon sir, the doyen of distance education in India. Sir has always been the guiding force behind this webinar series. Right from the first session onwards, sir has been there encouraging us in each and every aspect of this webinar series. Sir's words, timely intervention, and sir's nuanced understanding of the issue areas have been, in fact, something that has guided us and prompted us to come back week after week and have a new presentation at hand. Sir, as always, it is our proud privilege to welcome you to this session. Your intervention and your support to this program has been one of the paramount reasons why I can consider it a great success. Thank you, sir, and thank you for encouraging us as always. Dr. Sukumar, sir, the Regional Director of IGNOU Regional Center, Trivandrum, has always been a guiding force for us. Sir has been here in all the sessions and very enthusiastically he has participated in each and every program which we have conducted. And sir's, sir is a very busy person, and coming here sharp at 9:30 to participate in this program is indeed a strenuous effort. But in spite of that, sir has made it a point to always come forward and encourage us with his very presence. Thank you, sir, for once again being with us. Again, Dr. J.S. Dorothy, our regional director from RC Cochin, has also been with us throughout this series, and Madam's presence has also encouraged us to take this to the next level. Dr. Sindhu P. Nair, Dr. Jalja Kumari, Dr. Prasita Unnikrishnan, Dr. Priya, Dr. Pramila O, our own Assistant Regional Director, Mr. Joji from REC Cochin, and all other participants who are present today are worthy of mention. They have all, and I should not forget the name of our Mr. Praveen Kumara, and all these persons are worthy of praise for the kind of enthusiastic representation they have made throughout this webinar series. Their presence has also guided us and has been a pillar of strength for us to take this webinar series forward. I thank you all for your presence and welcome you to this program. the assistant coordinators, and all other members of the faculty of various colleges, and also all members of the IGNOU fraternity, as well as from various institutions, are also most welcome to this edition of the webinar series. We all hope that all of you are enthusiastically and effectively participating in this program, and your presence will be a source of great strength for all of us. So, without much ado and without wasting much of my time, wasting much of our time, let us go to Dr. Pramila Madam, who will introduce our guest speaker today in some detail. Over to you, Madam.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. Am I audible, sir?
Audible, Madam. Very audible.
Good morning. Today we are going to conduct the 9th session of our webinar series on post-COVID scenario, challenges and opportunities. Today, Ms. Parvathy, Master Degree student of Banaras Hindu University, is with us to present her views on COVID-19 and its long-term health effects and medical perspective. First of all, I welcome you, Ms. Parvathy, to this webinar. She is now studying in the Department of Molecular and Human Genetics, Institute of Science in IGNOU, Varanasi, for her master degree program. She had completed her degree course from Shahid Rajguru College of Applied Sciences for Women, University Delhi in 2019. She was also elected as Event Manager, Department Council, Shahid Rajguru College of Applied Sciences for Women for the academic year 2017-18. She was also elected to the Secretary, Human Development Cell, Shahid Rajguru College of Applied Sciences for Women, and received remarkable achievement is she received award for academic excellence in the university for the academic year 2016-2017. She has selected to participate the Summer School 2018, organized by the School of Life Sciences (JNU) under the outreach program of the UGC Networking Resource Center, and attended the research training program for a duration of 35 days in neurobiology under the supervision of Professor Virendranath Malik. She also attended a talk conducted by Innovation Center in Modern Era by two eminent personalities, Professor Balram Singh and Dr. Unnat Pandit, Head of Operations, Adult Innovation Mission, NITI, of Government of India on 12th February 2019. Also, she also qualified various All India level entrance examinations as follows: JNU CEEB 2019, rank 89 in the general category; DUET 2019, rank 35 for integrated MSc PhD in biomedical sciences; and Jamia Millia Islamic MSc Bioscience, All India rank 21. Qualified University of Madras entrance examination for MSc Biomedical Genetics and MSc Toxicology. Now she already taught. Now she is studying for MSc Molecular and Human Genetics in the Department of Molecular and Human Genetics, Institute of Science, BHU, Varanasi. So I invite you, Ms. Parvathy, to present your paper on COVID-19 and its long-term health effects. We are anxiously waiting to know the details about from you, Parvathy. Please, Ms. Parvathy, present your paper, and we are welcoming you once again to present your views. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rajesh sir and Pramila ma'am, for such a wonderful introduction. I couldn't have asked for more, and I thank all of you, all the coordinators and everybody for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to present my ideas in front of such esteemed group of people. And Thank you so much to everyone for spending your for joining. Uh, and without much delay, shall I, uh, Rajesh sir, shall I start presenting now?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Yes, Parvati, please. Please do. You
Thank
can
you, sir.
open your presentation also and start presenting.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And we look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
I hope it is visible right now.
Yes, yes.
Your presentation is not visible.
Okay, just a second. Is it visible now?
No, it hasn't come up.
No, no, Parvati. Not
Okay.
visible.
Is it okay now?
Ah, yeah, yeah. Started.
Okay, okay. I hope the PPT is visible.
Yes, yes. It is.
Okay. Yes.
So, a very warm good morning to everybody. And today I am going to present, my give my presentation on the topic COVID-19 and its long-term effects, a medical perspective. So, so we all know we had been facing something very new, and something very strange since last few months, and we never expected that we would experience something like this in our lifetime. But unfortunately, uh, such a pandemic came, and now we are struggling to overcome this. All the scientists, all the doctors, uh, government officials, everybody, and the general public, of course, is trying their best to overcome such a big issue in a global level. So it is very, very necessary that everyone, all the citizens of all the nations, should know some basic things about this virus. And uh, and it's very necessary that we know a little bit about the clinical aspect, because we don't know when we might get infected, since this is a very contagious, very transmissive infection. A majority of the population of the world has the chance to get infected, and it is very, very necessary that we all know a little bit about the virus so that we can be prepared to deal with it. So, let me introduce all of you to what is coronavirus. So, coronavirus is the causative organism, which is otherwise called a pathogen, which is responsible for causing this disease, COVID 19, which is coronavirus disease, emerged in 2019. That's how the name comes. So it is COVID 19, name of the disease, and the causative organism is coronavirus. Okay, so while talking about coronavirus, it's not just this COVID 19 causing organism or virus, which is just called coronavirus. We have, like the scientists have identified various coronaviruses in the past, and they had been found in various organisms like bats and mice and rats and all that. And this is the first time, this is not the first time coronaviruses are invading human species. There have been cases of MERS, which is Middle East respiratory syndrome, which happened in around 2011 to 13, and there was a SARS coronavirus one, which happened earlier, a few years back. But that those those two cases, they were not this much aggressive. So when this coronavirus emerged uh, in December, so it the diagnosis was done, and they could find out that this is by DNA sequencing, by genetic material sequencing, they would find out that this coronavirus is a little bit different from that of the coronaviruses which have earlier infected human species. And this one is a coronavirus which belongs to the family Coronaviridae. All the coronaviruses belong to the Coronaviridae family, and their genetic material is ribonucleic acid. We all know. I hope we all have studied in school that there are different biomolecules like carbohydrates, proteins, and nucleic acid, and all that. So ribonucleic acid is another form, or is a form of nucleic acid found in the cells. We have DNA in our cells as genetic material, but here the virus has no other cellular mechanism except this RNA. So it has just this RNA tagged in a protein. This I'll explain later while talking about the structure of the virus. So here this RNA is very small. It's a very small molecule. Like here, the size of this RNA is just 27 to 32 kb. So this kb is not the usual kb which we use in our daily life, which denotes the measurement of digital data. This is not that kb. This refers to kilobases. So these nucleic acids are all polymers. So these polymers are made of single units or monomers called nucleotides, which are made of certain nitrogen molecules, sugar molecules, and phosphate molecules. So such a single monomer is called a nucleotide. So this is around 27 to 32 kb, which means 27 to 32 kilobases. That is, kilo always indicates 1,000. We know that 10 raised to 3. So this is around 27,000 to 32,000 base pairs, which are there, not base pairs, bases which are there in RNA. So it is single stranded. If that was the DNA having double strand, we would have said that they are base pairs. But this is single stranded RNA, so we say that it has 27,000 to 32,000 bases. So it is capped and polyadenylated. It is just some molecules are added to both the ends of this RNA just to make it stable. We need not know about what kind of addition of molecules are happening there. So, and the class of coronavirus, I mean, the family of coronaviruses are identified in many species, including rats, mice, chickens, etc. So the human invading cases are not that common like the other others. So see here, I will show you a very simple structure of the coronavirus. This is a very simple representation. See here, you can see a lipid membrane, and then you have an envelope protein, and then you have a membrane form, and then a spike protein. So all the three different proteins and a lipid membrane form a case-like structure to hold the RNA within that. So this is a very simple structure a living organism can have. So still we cannot say that the viruses are completely living because they do not show any property of a living organism when it is outside the cell of a host organism, because they do not grow, they do not multiply, their genetic material do not replicate, they do not move on their own. So we cannot say they they are a very good living organism when they are outside the host cell. But once it is inside the host cell, it takes over the mechanism of the host cell by damaging the host cell to produce its own copies. So that is why it is a pathogenic organism. Pathogen means any organism which can cause disease. Okay, so while looking at the structure, you can see this lipid membrane. This lipid membrane is the one which is being destroyed when we wash our hands with lots of soap and water. So we know how the saponification reaction, in which lipids are we have seen this even in the ads of detergents, like how detergents will remove oil and dirt. So the same thing is happening here also. Like this lipid is enveloped or enclosed by the detergent or soap layer, and it is uh, broken down and washed away. This is what is happening when we are washing our hands, which is why it is recommended to wash our hands very much, I mean, very frequently, using soap and water. And we all know that we had been hearing this for a long time now. There are certain symptoms of the disease, like it was when it was just found in China. We knew that fever, dry cough, and dyspnea, which is breathing problem, headache, dizziness, etc., are the normal symptoms which are seen in patients. But later, since we are around 7 to 8 months from our index patient, we are getting to see very different spectrum of symptoms, people having symptoms, people having no symptoms. So everything is being seen now. See, we can have a better look at the symptoms and certain detection methods. So here we can see very mild symptoms can be, there is no evident pneumonia like symptom, nothing is there. There will be fatigue, very slight fever would be there, a little bit higher infection can have consistent fever, fatigue, and cough. There can be digestive problems as well, diarrhea, nausea, and all that. Uh, you can have sore throat and all flu-like symptoms when you're normally affected. But there is very severe and critical conditions where you have severe um, septic shock. Septic shock is something like something which happens when your body is under too much of inflammation. We know what is septic shock. Like if you are, if you get a wound by a rusted nail or something, what happens is it gets inflamed so much, right? We go and get our tetanus injection taken so that it gets healed. uh, what if that is not healed? We get, it becomes septic, right? We all use this term in our daily lives when we get a wound or something. Go get your TT done, otherwise it will be septic. So septic shock is something which happens to your body when there is so much of inflammation. Inflammation എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മൾ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരുപാട് പഴുക്കുക എന്ന് പറയില്ലേ, അതാണ് ഇൻഫ്ലമേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. So too much of inflammation can cause septic shock. It not just affect any single organ, but can affect the entire body. So there is this severe inflammation in lungs can cause pneumonia, and you know pneumonia is very very dangerous, and in severe conditions the patient is put on ventilator, and there is severe breathing problem. The patient cannot breathe on his own or her own, and there is need of ventilator. There can be chances of infection while inserting the ventilator in your windpipe. So it is a very very critical condition, but this is not very common. This happens not much. Okay, so that is why this disease is very 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 easily transmitted. Not everybody is having very severe symptoms. Only few are getting severe symptoms. The rest are recovering within 1 or 2 weeks. Some of the patients are not even showing any symptoms. So that becomes a complicated situation to assess the disease for the scientists and the physicians all over the world. So there are certain blood indicators which show that you have some inflammation in your body, not necessarily in case of just COVID-19, but any inflammatory disease will give you increased ESR, increased C-reactive protein and all. But here you can see there is decreased lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are actually those cells which are responsible for fighting any disease. So it is an immune cell. So here, when lymphocyte count is going down, you should understand that your immune system is getting weakened. Okay, so in the initial stage of infection, you will have a very high lymphocyte count because your body will try to recruit all the lymphocytes to the site of infection. That might be a throat or a lungs. Uh, but once if the virus is taking over, the lymphocyte count goes very low. So certain detection methods are we sequence the viral genetic material and the patient's genetic material both, and there we don't know in the initial case, like when the coronavirus disease was initially reported, they would have definitely done some sequencing to know what genetic sequence or RNA sequence. Then we didn't know what kind of RNA sequence this coronavirus is having, or how it is different from the early identified coronaviruses. So when we sequenced and matched the DNA, not DNA, sorry, it's RNA in this case. So when we matched the genetic material, we could understand that it is just 88% of the earlier identified coronavirus uh, viruses. So that is why this is a novel coronavirus. Novel means something new. So this is novel and it is first reported. So that is why it is novel coronavirus. And other detection methods are PCR, which we hear every day. That is polymerase chain reaction. Polymerase chain reaction is a routine work in any molecular biology lab. We do it for so many DNA identification or RNA identification methods. So here in case of coronavirus, what we do is uh, we collect the sample and do PCR, which will give us a very accurate result if that RNA is present in the patient sample or not. So PCR is a very reliable test. And then you have antibody detection kit. There are so many immunology based tests which will give you information regarding if there are antibodies produced in your body against the coronavirus, which is an indication of there had been an infection or there is an infection. So generally, antibody detection is done to detect past infection. So you can do radiology studies also in patients having COVID-19. Uh, X-ray or CT will work. Then you have you don't. All of us know that we don't have a, a specific treatment protocol for COVID-19 yet. We are using generally what we give for any viral infection. So this virus targeted drugs such as remdesivir and all. So we are giving it because it will some or the other way block the division or multiplication of this virus inside our bodies. So that is how they are targeted. And there are other therapies also like plasma and antibody therapies, which is basically uh, antibodies. If somebody is affected, that person's immune system will definitely uh, produce some or the other antibody against this coronavirus. So, and if that person has recovered, we can use those antibodies by, there are so many purification methods and all. Only those antibodies are injected to a patient, so that it is kind of a vaccination. Actually, it is a passive vaccination. Like, uh, in vaccination, we are triggering our body to produce antibodies. Here we are giving already produced antibody, which is from some other person who has recovered, to a person who is struggling to recover. So it will enhance the rate of recovery. So here you can see there is a, here is an X-ray of a patient having acute respiratory distress syndrome. It is a condition which happens in severe cases of COVID-19, where the lungs get filled with fluid because of inflammation. And in those cases, what happens is your lung tissue is very much inflamed, and your X-ray will look like this. This is a normal one, and here you can see a deceased one, and here is a mm, representation of the pathogenesis, or you can say the progression of the disease. So here this graph indicates in the initial stage, which is incubation period, it's mostly asymptomatic, which means there are no symptoms, nothing. You would not know that you have catched the infection. You would not have any difficulty. You'll be doing your daily activities, everything as usual. But later, maybe 2 to 3 days, but incubation is generally up to 14 days, we say. But in some cases, we have seen this disease showing symptoms even after 30 days. So, still, all of the medical community is trying to find out an exact conclusion for it. So, later, there is a mild stage of symptomatic infection where the virus is multiplying, but your body is not responding much, but responding. Then you have a hyperinflammation stage where your body will fight very hard to remove this virus from your body. So at that point happens the too much of inflammation and sepsis and all that. That is a point where you can get the septic shock. So if your body is strong enough, if your immune system is strong enough to remove the virus at this stage itself, you will not get severe symptoms. But if your body and your immune system is not strong enough, your disease can progress up to this level. And still, if it's not recovered, there is no resolution, and not recovered at all. The resolution is either recovery or death. So, but the mortality rate in case of coronavirus is very less, around 2 to 3%, and it varies from different countries to countries, and so mortality rate is very less. Most of the people are recovering. So what is the problem in this disease is it is very much transmissible, very contagious. So the issue is we don't know if catched by the infection, who are the people who will recover completely. We don't know who will show uh, a severe symptom that has generally we say that some age categories are more vulnerable, but even young people also have reported severe conditions and even fatality. So even WHO officials have also said that don't think that young people have this tendency thinking that we are young people, we have a good immune system, nothing will happen to us. But WHO has instructed that there is nothing like that. Everybody can be affected equally, irrespective of age or gender. So here is uh, a representation of how this sepsis or inflammation is happening in your lungs. If this becomes, I mean, if your body could not get rid of this virus with mild symptoms, so we know what is the structure of. Have a look at the structure of the lungs. Here you can see uh, a trachea is dividing into bronchi, two bronchi into each of the lungs, and then it branches and branches a lot inside the lungs, and at the ends, at the terminals of all the branches, you can see uh, some small balloon-like, sac-like structures, which are actually uh, very much important for gaseous exchange in your lungs with blood. So this is how there is a capillary, a blood vessel, which is covering this alveolus. Alveolus is the small sac-like balloon-like structures present in your lungs, which are very, very important for gaseous exchange. Okay, so here you can see when you're breathing in, you have oxygen rich air coming into your lungs, and this is taken through this windpipe and bronchus to ends like alveoli, and there you can see this alveoli is covered with blood vessels where the carbon dioxide from other parts of the body is brought here by this blood. Okay, and the oxygen rich air inhaled will be exchanged to the blood, and the carbon dioxide, which is to be exhaled out, will be given to alveolus. So I'll repeat once more. Oxygen from this alveolus will go to blood, and carbon dioxide from blood will go to alveolus, and this carbon dioxide is exhaled out. So this oxygen carbon dioxide exchange, which is gaseous exchange, very, very important for the survival of each and every cell of your body, is happening at this level. When there is infection by coronavirus, you can see there are all the immune cells like lymphocytes, monocytes, and all the immune cells which will fight for your body will come here. When all the cells are coming here, there is already a crowd, right? So that crowding can interfere with this gaseous exchange. And when the infection further progresses, what happens is your alveolus will get filled with fluid, pus, and mucus. This will again block gaseous exchange to a higher level. Okay, so later, when there is very, very severe inflammation, the whole structure of the alveoli collapse, and there is severe blockage inside, stop which definitely stops in very severe cases the gaseous exchange, and your body is deprived of oxygen. So that is how there is deaths happening in severe cases of coronavirus infection. So I have mentioned that the mortality rate is very low, but the transmission is very, very high. Rate of transmission is very high. So that is why this could spread all over the globe so easily. Like it has a good incubation period also. Like 14 days is more than enough for you to give it to 10 other people or 100 other people. If you got the infection and in 14 days, if you're not showing any symptom, you would roam around, you would meet your friends, you would go around in market, you would have contact with so many people, you will give it to them. And even though you are diagnosed positive for this disease in 1 or 2 weeks, at that point of time, those people who got the disease from you are again transmitting to some other people. So the chain is like exponential. Okay, so that is how this transmission rate is very high. So our state has faced another pandemic which was much more deadly. Not sorry, I'm not pandemic. It was an infectious disease. In 2018, we faced Nipah. So, what is the difference? What makes Nipah less transmissive is people get uh, sick very short time, and they are not capable of even spreading the disease. Okay, so the mortality rate was around 75 to 80 percentage in case of Nipah, and in case of Nipah, the death happens very soon. You get the infection, so you don't get enough time to infect other people. That is what is happening in case of Nipah. Uh, Maybe that's why that didn't get spread much like that of COVID. Here in COVID, the human to human transmission is very high. The mortality rate is very low. So it is all altogether the combination of the characteristics of this infection makes it a very good global, uh, very good gives it a chance of transmission at a global level. So the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Pandemic means the whole world is bothered about it. Yeah, it is like the entire globe is infected by this thing. This is a pandemic. So on 11th March 2020, WHO declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. And while talking about what is this virus doing inside our body, how it is getting inside our cells, uh, there are certain receptors called ACE2 receptors on the cell membranes of our lungs and many other organs. Uh, so it is responsible for maintaining blood pressure, and it is also responsible for it is a very critical receptor. I don't want to go into the details of the physiological functions. I'll just give you an overview. It is present on the cells of many tissues like heart, lungs, kidney, and all. Even brain cells also have these receptors. So ACE2 is a receptor for an enzyme. Okay, it is an enzyme for the angiotensin converting enzyme, which is very important and involved in many functions in our body. So when this enzyme is released and it is required to enter into cells, this is the receptor, ACE2 receptor, is the one which facilitates its entry into the cell. So this we had seen the spike protein. The protein envelope of the coronavirus has this very tricking property that it can go and bind to the ACE2 receptor and get inside the cell just like the ACE2 enzyme. Okay, so our body cells will allow its entry in the initial stage. Once it is inside the cell, then only our body realizes, oh, this is not enzyme, and this is something else. So by that time, this virus is an RNA. I mentioned earlier. This RNA will give rise to uh, the production of protein. Like in our body, how proteins are made from DNA, RNA is made, and from RNA, proteins are synthesized. So this virus cannot synthesize its own protein from its own RNA because it doesn't have any cellular mechanism or machinery inside the virus. But it needs somebody else's help to do that. And it chose human beings to do that. Unfortunately, human beings' ACE2 receptors are very suitable for their entry They enter our cells, and their RNA is translated to protein by our own cellular machinery. And those proteins will be used to assemble other viruses, and the virus will multiply in our own cells using our own replication mechanism. So, if somebody has catched this infection, and if we suspect somebody to be infected by coronavirus, these are the three different tests which are generally done. So the viral test is the one which I already mentioned, is the PCR test. PCR is polymerase chain reaction, which is used to amplify the genetic material. So we are taking the throat swab or nasal swab, but the amount of viral genetic material in those swab will be very less. If we are doing it by simple detection, direct detection, we cannot detect it because it's a very minute amount of genetic material of the virus. So for that, what we do is we amplify it, just like a transmitter, uh, uh, what transistor. Transistor amplifies electrical signals. Here, the genetic material is amplified. Okay, so this RNA is initially converted to DNA in lab. That is done under very controlled experimental conditions, and that DNA is amplified and detected. So, if that gives a positive signal, that means the sample did have the viral genetic material, which means that person is infected. So, this is a very accurate test, and that is very reliable. And then comes the antigen test. An antigen test, uh, the major advantage is that when PCR will take around 48 hours for you to get the result, antigen test is very rapid. All the rapid tests are done by antigen test kits. Okay. So in that, not necessarily the viral genetic material is tested. Any part of the virus can be tested. Any of those proteins which we initially mentioned, which forms the capsule of the virus or the envelope of the virus, uh, that can be detected. So if that gives a positive signal, that means that person is infected. But there are some cases, not I have already said that this antigen test is not specific as viral test. So it is quite less specific than PCR. There are chances of false positive. False positive means that patient is infected, but still the antigen test is giving you a negative result. This is because there is no sufficient amount of the viral particle uh, so that it can be detected in the antigen test kit. So in such cases, if the antigen test is giving you positive result, that definitely means that person is infected. But even if it is giving a negative result, always it is recommended that you go for a confirmatory PCR test also. So then comes the antibody test. So here, it is not any of the viral particles tested for. It is the antibodies produced by your own immune system against this virus. They are being detected. So if you have got an infection a few months back, if your blood is tested, you can find out some antibodies against coronavirus produced. So it is a very specific process done by our immune system. If you have antibodies against chickenpox, you will not get chickenpox. Okay, that is why in most cases there is no second time infection in case of chickenpox. But here in case of coronavirus, we are not still sure if anybody can get second infection or not, because these antibodies may get degraded after some time, since we are just a few months away from the first patient. It's been just few months we are dealing with this disease, so we are not sure about if there is any chance of lifelong uh, lifelong protection against the second infection or not, if the antibodies will sustain in the bloodstream, or will there be immune cells having the memory of your infection so that you'll be protected from a second infection. We have no uh, clear evidence for all that. It is being studied. And here you can see a better structure of the viral molecule, virus. So here I would like to talk a little bit about the vaccine. So while talking about vaccine, there are different studies and researches going on all around the globe to develop vaccine so that we can overcome this global issue as soon as possible. So vaccines, just now I mentioned about antibodies. Vaccines, what they do is they trigger the production of antibodies by our body. For triggering such antibody production, what we need is we need to introduce to our body some or the other kind of uh, we need to introduce our body to some other kind of viral particle. We cannot inject coronavirus and ask our immune system to produce antibodies against it, because that will be infection. So for doing that, we take we genetically engineer. This is just one way of making vaccine, and but just like saying it, it's not very easy, because we have to take precaution so that there is no infection instead of vaccination. So we take some um, protein particle from its envelope, and that can be used for vaccination, or attenuated virus, which means virus which is killed, or a virus which is not virulent. Virulent means a pathogen which can cause disease. Virulence is the capability of causing disease. When once this virulence is taken away, we can use it as a vaccine. So that is how vaccines are generally produced. So we are expecting a vaccine will be developed as soon as possible. And then another role of the immune system in severe cases of COVID-19 is that I did talk about acute respiratory distress syndrome, in which there is accumulation of fluid in the lung tissue. In those conditions, how that is triggered, whenever there is a viral infection in our body, uh, certain signaling chemicals uh, are released by those infected cells to call the immune cells. That is like, see, I have got an infection here, somebody is attacking me, please come and help me. It is such a message sent by these infected cells to the immune cells in the form of cytokine. Okay, so cytokines always trigger inflammation. Inflammation always happen whenever there is immune reactions happening. So immune reaction is actually a fight between the foreign particle and your body's immune cells, so that the foreign particle is removed from your body. But during that kind of a war inside your body, many times your own cells are sacrificed, because in during inflammation, there is so much of pus and all that. Your own cells can get injured severely, so that they cannot come back to its normal state, that is, which will lead to severe cell injury. During such severe cell injury, what happens is the tissue gets damaged. This is what is happening in COVID-19 case. So here you can see a point: high cytokines flow suppresses oxygen utilization in the body and cause hypoxia. So whenever there is a very high inflammation, it's a defensive mechanism taken by our body. It suppresses the oxygen flow to that particular area. It is actually to make those cells less metabolically active, and make to remove the pathogen. If even if the pathogen is also in need of oxygen, if that particular area of your body is made hypoxic, means deficient in oxygen, that organism will also be destroyed. But sometimes what happens is not only that foreign organism, but your cells, your own cells will also get affected, which is happening, which is seen to happen in case of coronavirus infection. So that is how this is leading to multiple organ failure, which contributes to the long term effect. So mm, that is how various organs like kidney or heart or brain gets affected. When they are hypoxic, means deficient of oxygen, cells get damaged. So most of the times we expect these cells to recover and regain their functions. And the long term effects come from there. What if these cells, once damaged, do not get to recover? What if they can't regain their function? That will definitely cause some other kind of long term problem in case of this coronavirus infection. So, after discussing the structure, how this is causing an infection, what is it doing to your body, it is very clear that inflammation is a major villain in case of coronavirus infection. So, there are, according to CDC, which is Center for Disease Control in USA, they had released a list of vulnerable people, like who are having a risk for severe illness if affected by infected by coronavirus, are as follows. People having some or the other kind of medical conditions already existing are always at high risk, like cancer, or somebody having chronic kidney disease. They must be going through dialysis and those kind of medical procedures, so they'll already be very weak and their body is always at the verge of inflammation, right? So when your body is, like in case of arthritis and all, your body is already inflamed. In that kind of situation, if you're getting coronavirus infection also, it will be like double the effect of normal inflammation caused by COVID-19. So people having some other disease, any medical condition, are always at higher risk. So in immunocompromised state, you can see people who have received organ transplant and all, they are given immunosuppressants so that their uh, transplant is not rejected. Our body always has this tendency of rejecting foreign bodies. So when somebody is receiving a transplant from somebody else, you have to forcefully weaken the patient's immune system. Otherwise, that transplant will be a failure. There are chances of infection, and also always such patients are given immunosuppressants. So they are at risk because if they get infection, they cannot fight against the virus. So there are different conditions, like any cardiovascular diseases will increase the risk of COVID-19. So there are some other categories also, like people who might be at risk, which is also released by CDC: hypertension, blood pressure, diabetes, smoking, and everything. All of these conditions, like any kind of cerebrovascular disease, immunocompromised state, as I also mentioned, any liver disease, pregnancy, etc., always put a risk of severe infection if affected by coronavirus. So, one thing I would like to focus on is how smoking affects the severity of the disease. See, smokers um, uh, are those people having their lungs with lots and lots of unnecessary uh, tar like substances deposited in their lungs. So already their lungs are kind of inflamed because there are already lots and lots of foreign particles inside their lungs, dust and smoke and everything. So their lungs will very easily go into the stage of septic shock. So it's not that if smokers will easily get the disease, it's not that they'll get the disease easily, but they are also equally having the chance of getting the disease. But once caught by the disease, their level of inflammation will be very high because their lungs are already weak. Okay, so that will definitely cause a severity in their disease if caused. Mm, this has been observed in many cases, but still this is under study to what extent, and it will affect the patient if that patient had a habit of smoking, but not necessarily in every case this should happen. There are always exceptions. So this disease itself is a mystery because we don't know what kind of symptoms everybody would show if affected by the disease. Everybody is showing different degree of symptoms. Somebody is having no symptoms, somebody is having extreme level of sick sickness, and uh, we cannot determine. Still, the studies are going on. COVID-19 looks like a mystery in front of us. So, this is how smoking affects the severity of the disease. And one more thing is that smokers have the habit of touching their lips always while smoking. So, you don't know where all you did touch earlier, and maybe you haven't washed your hands. So, that is also a possibility that you'll get the infection from anywhere. So, so let me come to the main core topic of this presentation, which is long-term effects. So, I just mentioned, so different organs are affected because of inflammation and hypoxia. Hypoxia is the deficiency in oxygen. So, long-term effects depends upon to what extent your organs can recover from the damage caused during the course of infection, which can be a week or 2 weeks. So you're getting the infection for not more than 2 or 3 weeks. You'll recover, your test report will be negative after that. But you definitely don't know to what extent your different organs, especially your lungs and heart, have got damaged during that course of infection. So here you can see uh, people having some serious medical conditions are mostly likely to experience the long-term effects of COVID-19. So most common symptoms are fatigue, cough, shortness of breath, headache, and joint pain for quite a long time.
Hello.
Uh,
Parvathy, you can say a little bit louder. Parvathy, you
okay,
can say a little bit louder.
okay. So the long-term effects are uh, like fatigue, cough, shortness of.
Please be a little bit louder.
Okay. So the most common signs, as I mentioned, are fatigue, cough, shortness of breath, headache, and joint pain. All these are caused seen for next 6 or 9 months after the infection. In most people, some people don't show it for 6 to 9 months necessarily. It varies from person to person. Am I audible enough now? Hello, am I
Yes.
audible enough?
You are audible. You can proceed, please.
Okay. So this is just a diagrammatic representation of different long-term effects experienced by a person who got a coronavirus infection. Like that person may have sleeping problems, trouble with sleeping, which is insomnia. Vertigo is nothing but there is a howling like sound heard in your ear for a very long time. Like it happens to us when we travel in flight and all. So that happens even in case of COVID also. And then you have chest pain and cough, which is an after effect of the lung inflammation. And then you have joint pain also, which is also caused by inflammation in your joints during the course of infection. You'll be feeling very weak and very much dizzy. You might get headache very often, even after recovering for a quite a long period, like maybe few months. And brain fog is something which is reported in some cases, like there is difficulty in thinking. There has been reports where patients have shown uh, cognitive problems. So that might be because some brain damage has been occurred would have occurred during the course of infection, and then shortness of breath because of lung problem. There can be skin rashes. That is also kind of an immune reaction. Heart arrhythmia is your heartbeats would go out of rhythm, and then you might get hypertension. Some patients have high blood pressure after an acute infection. Like they were completely okay before the infection, and once they got the infection for quite a long time, they are having this hypertension. So reportedly, uh, it has been there for months. Some people recover after 2 months, some people recover after 3 months, and it varies from person to person. So here are some organs, like very important organs. Like you cannot say which organ is more important, which organ is less important, but somehow heart, lungs, and brain seem always much more important than other organs. So here hypoxia, like we already mentioned, is the deficiency of oxygen. So, in case of heart attack, which is in medical it is called myocardial infarction. So, in such cases, what happens is it's only hypoxia for some time, which is causing that heart attack at some particular part of your heart muscle. There is no enough oxygen supply because blood flow to that particular area of the heart is obstructed by a cholesterol plaque or something. So in those cases, what happens is that particular part of your heart gets damaged. That is what happens in heart attack. So heart attack has been uh, observed very frequently in cases of coronavirus infections. So this is because the lung tissue is damaged, so there is no proper oxygen given to the heart tissue. Without proper oxygen, it cannot pump blood. So the heart itself is getting damaged because of poor blood supply. Other organs like brain is also getting damaged. So if your brain tissue is damaged, it can cause to many other problems later in life, like Parkinson's disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, and all that. Mm, there can be temporary stroke-like symptoms and seizures, which can cause temporary paralysis. Okay, it is not permanent; it is very temporary. So this is how all these organs are damaged by COVID-19. So this is a better representation of how it is happening. So in lungs, it is causing inflammation, and there is uh, so much of accumulation of pus and all those fluid which will cause pneumonia, and there is damage to lung tissue which will take lots and lots of time to recover. And the same way in heart, just like I mentioned, there are chances of myocardial infarction, and there are possibly clot formation. So this clot formation can cause damage to any organ. This clot can be formed in any part of your bloodstream, okay, in any part of your body. So this clot formation is also something triggered by the COVID-19 disease. So coronavirus infection has shown evidences of promoting blood clot formation. So in brain, it can cause seizures, confusion, and brain inflammation. Brain inflammation can cause many other problems, which I'll discuss soon. And eyes. In some people, there are cases in which people got conjunctivitis. We would never expect somebody having COVID will come up with a symptom of conjunctivitis, but this is because I did mention about ACE2 receptors. ACE2 receptors are those receptors which facilitate the entry of virus into our body. So any organ or any cell having these receptors can let the virus come inside and trigger any kind of inflammation. So eyes you have ACE2 receptors, so it can cause conjunctivitis. In nose, why it is said that if you are getting coronavirus infection, your your sense of taste and smell will be damaged. It is because once they enter your nose, what happens is they slightly damage the nerve endings which are responsible for you to sense smell and taste, and they also damage your nasal epithelium. Nasal epithelium is mm, the upper lining of your nasal cavity. So this is how the taste of smell and taste is damaged. So in many cases, liver is very very important in um, any kind of disease, because liver being the detoxifying organ of our body, it will definitely be affected when so many drugs are given. It will be affected. uh, so any kind of drug metabolism happens in liver. So the heavy doses of antiviral drugs and other medicines given during the course of infection will affect the liver to some extent. And renal damage also happens, which means damage to kidney. And in many patients, uh, gastrointestinal problems are also reported, which means their digestive system is also affected by coronavirus. So while talking about these the damages to heart, especially, there is myocardial damage, that is damage to the heart, the muscle of the heart. Okay, so during the course of infection, as I mentioned again and again, when there is deficiency of oxygen, the cells will be damaged. All of your cells, any cell can be damaged when there is deficiency of oxygen. So one thing which affects heart tissue is heart tissue is very very peculiar in one thing, that once the heart cells are formed during the embryonic stage, after birth, no cell of your heart divides. No cell of your heart will divide and form new cell. Okay, so once damaged is damaged forever, which is why cardiovascular damages are very 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 prominent in case of COVID-19. So lungs is very much closely associated with heart. Okay, so when there is no proper oxygen supply to organs, uh, uh, just a minute, I think there is some network problem. Okay, there was a network problem. I'll continue. Is my screen visible?
Now your PPT is visible.
Okay, okay, fine. I hope it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Perfectly fine.
Okay. So we were talking about the myocardial damage. There are chances of heart attack, which is otherwise called myocardial infarction. Coronary ischemia is the heart itself is supplying blood to heart, right? So heart is supplying blood to every organ. So the same way heart is supplying blood to heart tissue itself. So when there are clots in the blood vessel carrying blood to the tissues of heart itself, there can be chances of infarction. And there is blood clot formation, or even if the blood is flowing and if it is deficient in oxygen, there are possibilities of the heart tissue to get damaged. And this damage, since cannot be repaired, definitely contribute to a long term heart problem, cardiovascular problem in people who are affected severely by coronavirus. See, when I'm saying this, please don't get scared, because not everybody will necessarily get cardiovascular damage even if affected by coronavirus. So in most of the cases, there are mild cardiovascular complications like blood clot formation and all that, but not necessarily always it will lead to heart attack or something. But the possibility cannot be ignored. We have seen in news also these days, many people uh, who died of heart attack or silent attack when diagnosed. I mean, after their death, when their COVID test report comes, there there are cases where it is positive. So there we cannot, that person is no more. So, and if that person died of COVID-19, you cannot go for post-mortem studies and all extensively. That's also dangerous. So the possibilities of study is also very less. Not necessarily everybody will get the symptoms like cardiovascular damage and all. So, but there are chances that people can get such problems. Um, this venous thromboembolism is nothing but clots formed in uh, your blood vessels. So this is like myocardial injury when happens, how it is happening. This is inflammation in the blood cell. See, here you can see when the blood cell is inflamed, there is the lumen, which is the hole required in a blood vessel, is not very clear. Okay, so in those cases, what happens is there is further enhancement of clot formation and the blood vessel gets blocked. So here also you can see there is people having high cholesterol will always have these kind of plaques in their major arteries. Not everybody, having people having very high cholesterol. So such kind of lifestyle disorders are always increasing the risk while getting affected by coronavirus infection. So here you can see the X-ray which I earlier shown. So yeah, that's it. I don't want to go into deep details. So this was newspaper cutting which was seen in Times of India, which this was published in, definitely to make people aware of how it is affecting your heart, so that most of the people think that it is nothing but just a flu or a little bit more than a common cold, so we need not worry much. But you have to look into the further details. Like, once if you're, even for a very short period, if your body and its cells are deprived of oxygen, it can definitely get some permanent damage. So this is how they uh, represented it. The cytokine storm, which I mentioned, which is a hyper reaction by your immune system, has a very deep impact on all the tissues. So it has on heart as well, severe immune reaction in which the body releases too many cytokines into blood too quickly. That load is not normal, right? So something that doesn't happen every day in your body, and your body is not trained to deal with that kind of an immune reaction that will damage its own cells, and that will definitely damage the organs. So you need to be very careful and don't think that this is a simple disease very easily. It's not something which we can get through very easily. So while talking about the neurological consequences, just like myocardium, which is heart cells, brain cells, not all brain cells. Yeah, there are so many types of cells in your brain. The neurons, which are the brain cells responsible for all the control and coordination, have this particular feature. Not just neurons in your brain, your neurons spread across all over your body has this particular feature that they also don't divide and form new neurons after your birth. It happens in the embryonic stage. You have a fixed number of neurons formed in your body at the time of birth, and they do not further divide. Which is why a person who uh, got stroke or some other kind of brain or spine damage during accidents, they don't recover. They once paralyzed and all, most of the times they don't recover. But that is why doctors say that there should be some miracle that this person would recover. So most of the cases, brain damages are so much irreversible. So, so in this case, what happens is when the brain cells are deprived of oxygen, a number of manifestations like headache, dizziness, stroke like symptoms, seizures, confusion, agitation, coma, delirium, stupor. These are all different uh, medical terms for like brain related problems. Uh, I don't want to overload with you with too much of information. I just want to say that this can damage your brain for sure if affected. I mean, if the brain is affected to a great extent, it will definitely damage the brain cells. So it's not actually the coronavirus just entering and damaging. The multiplication of the coronavirus inside your body, which will elicit some or the other kind of inflammatory reaction, which is initiated by your immune system, which will lead to hypoxia and cell damage. Cell damage means the organ will also damage. Hypoxia cannot be uh, tolerated by any of your cells. Hypoxia can be tolerated if those cells are replaceable. Like if you got some cut on your skin or on your muscle cells, they can recover. Why? Because they can divide. But brain and heart do not recover much because they cannot divide. So uh, another thing is that there are studies going on in case of neurological consequences because there is a blood brain barrier. I don't want to complicate this, but let me just tell you that something is there between blood and the normal vasculature, which is blood, other than which is not very common in other organs. Okay, so in our body, our brain is a very special organ encased in the skull and not much exposed to blood like that of other organs. So you might be thinking, where do brain get all the nutrients and oxygen carried in blood? So the vasculature or the blood vessels are the walls of the blood vessels are so tight in the brain, and the filtering process is very specific. Only those required nutrients and only the smallest form of nutrient, which is glucose, can enter into the brain. No other nutrient is utilized by brain. No protein, no fat, nothing can go inside your brain. Only glucose, which is the smallest molecule, can go into your brain. So that much tightly the blood vessel walls are arranged in the brain region, so that no pathogens, even if present in the blood, should go to the they should not go into brain and damage the brain, because it is a very important organ. That is how nature has organized our body. So there has been reports that this coronavirus is sometimes efficient enough even to cross that very tightly packed blood brain barrier and get into brain to infect it. This is just a few papers are released, I mean published on this, and claiming this. It's not yet completely confirmed, but post-mortem reports of people who died of COVID have shown inflammatory damages in their brain, which is not possible if the coronavirus crossed the blood vessel into the brain. If they had not crossed, there are no chances of inflammation in the brain, right? So normally all the big particles or the protein particles can never get into brain from blood, because the blood vessels of the brain are having very tightly packed walls. Which is why those big molecules cannot sieve and get into the brain. It's like a sieve like process. Only the required nutrients like uh, glucose and certain hormones, which are very small, all those hormones which act on brain are molecularly very small. Their molecules are small. So bigger molecules like protein never get into brain from your bloodstream. But in case of COVID-19, since blood vessels, there are possibilities, because blood vessel have ACE2 receptors, and ACE2 receptors act as a path for this coronavirus to enter your different cells. So they may penetrate blood vessel, which is causing the blood brain barrier, and get into the brain and cause damage to your brain. And this is under study, not yet confirmed. So if such brain damages happen, what we can conclude is can definitely cause long term effects in your brain. Your cognitive abilities also might get affected. There can be possibility of dementia later in life. There can be possibility of uh, other neurological diseases such as Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. uh, that's all about uh, neurological manifestations. So renal damage is damage to your kidney. So coronavirus definitely might target kidney cells, because kidney cells do have ACE2 receptors. So the same way hypoxia will affect any other cell of your body, hypoxia will affect kidney cells also. So cytokine storms also affect all the organs, so it will definitely affect kidneys also. So kidneys are responsible for purifying our blood and taking out all the nitrogenous waste out of the body in the form of urine. Okay, so if the blood supply, like the blood which is to be purified, is to be taken into the blood, I mean kidney. So if the blood vessel taking the blood which is to be purified to the kidney is blocked by any kind of blood clot, as I mentioned earlier, then also kidney damage can occur. So, like any other organ, liver injury happens in case of COVID 19, but cases of acute liver failure have not been reported much from China or other countries, because liver itself has got a good regenerative property, like that, which is why people donate liver. Like even if a part of your liver is cut off and removed, it will regenerate in some time. So even if damaged, mostly liver damage is very much recovered, and the liver gets back all its functions normal. So that's liver damage is not that serious in this case. So that is how the organs are affected and damaged. And even though all the organs are affected by hypoxia, I don't want to scare all of you. It is completely possible that you would recover from from all the symptoms, even if infected by coronavirus, because you all the anatomy and physiology of every single person is different. So we cannot predict who will get what kind of symptom, but people having some or the other medical condition already are definitely under this category, and it is very very necessary to take good care um, and stay in a condition, or be careful in such a way that you don't get the infection from anywhere. uh, Wash your hands as frequently as possible using soap and water, and whatever you buy from market, wash it using soap and water. Some those products which you cannot wash, at least wipe them with alcohol. And there has been findings that if vegetables and all, if you wash it with vinegar also, it is okay. If vinegar we add in food items, so it's not a big deal. You wash it with vinegar, you can just wash it with water after that. So take at most care. We might think that this is just a flu like disease, it's not going to do uh, not going to do any serious damage to our body. That is not we are not sure about it. Even the medical community is studying the property of this disease. And this virus is definitely a mystery virus, because uh, in some people it gives no symptoms, in some other people it gives a wide range of symptoms. So we are not sure about how to deal with this. We just have to be cautious, we have to be uh, taking all the precautions. That's how we can keep ourselves and our families safe from this pandemic. uh, yeah, that's all I have to say, and thank you so much everyone. Now, if you have any questions, I humbly request you to ask them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Parvathy. It was, I feel, a wonderful presentation, well formulated and extremely well executed as well. I should say with all the
Thank you.
credit at my end that it was a fabulous experience listening to you, because being a layman, and there are many laymen in this group like me, for us it was an eye opener of what this virus could actually do and the kind of damage that it could actually create in persons. One of the important things that I would like to emphasize as a key characteristic of the presentation that you made was that, well, of course, the slides were excellent. They were very beautiful and well formulated. But the other part was the clarity with which you explained the things. When I first received the slides yesterday, I thought that I would more or less be like the batsman of 1980s facing Michael Holding and Joel Garner in the West Indies. But it was not of that kind. In fact, we were much better off. In fact, it was like facing spin on the Indian wickets. So you made it so easy for us, so comprehensible for us to understand that everything fell well in its place. Of course, as I would like to emphasize once again, I am a layman. And being a layman, I have my own limitations in understanding the whole thing in its entirety. But still, with whatever I could understand, we could indeed place in perspective the kind of dangers that this virus brings forth to each and every one of us. Is also, I think is that you have just spelled out that you need to take real precaution against this very deadly virus, because just as it is just as it is not with us, virus after so before, um, participant, I have two queries which I think you could just address. One is that there is this widespread condemnation of China that this particular virus was a product of genetic engineering. So, first and foremost, I want to know whether it is possible to create such a virus through genetic engineering, and if it is a product of genetic engineering, what are the what could be the future fallouts? Like how because we have heard in recent times that territory to territory the nature of this virus is varying. So you could shed your thoughts on that. And second, there is another. It could be rather funny as well. There is another presumption that since we wash our hands with alcohol-based sanitizers, consumption of alcohol would also have similar effects. Maybe this is a funny side to it, but maybe you can just throw your ideas on that. Could you just unmute? Could you just unmute your mic?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your appreciation. Addressing your question, you asked if it is possible to generate such viruses in laboratories. Yeah, it is definitely possible. When the index patient, which is like the first patient of coronavirus when reported in Wuhan, that patient was they would have definitely conducted sequencing of the genetic material. So, and till now, many laboratories all over the world have conducted sequencing of the coronavirus, which is infecting almost all the countries of the world, and they could find out that the earlier emerged coronavirus diseases like SARS-1 and MERS, the um, genetic identity is almost 88%. And it is also observed that the viruses hosted by bats, fruit-eating bats, also share a great percentage of similarity in their genetic composition with the novel coronavirus. So some studies claim that it is genetically engineered and made because they have some genetic sequences of other viruses. Like I don't exactly remember which one, but some other viruses genetic material is also incorporated in this. And some other studies claim that it is a variant mutated from the coronavirus family hosted by fruit-eating bats. So both the claims are seen. So we cannot say if it is true or not that they created this virus in China in a laboratory. And if yes, if they have done it, we are seeing that it is not easy to control it, right? So it is mutating in every different population. It is there are more than 30 mutant strains till now causing a disease all over the world, and many of them are having different degree of virulence. Virulence is the capability of causing disease. So different degree of virulence means if the aggressiveness of the virus. So the strains found in New York and all Italy were found to be very, very aggressive, whereas in other countries like New Zealand, it was very less aggressive. So that is how mutation is giving rise to different variants of the virus, leading to different level of severity in different populations. And as you asked about alcohol, using alcoholic hand sanitizers, this has been a practice in laboratories and among medical professionals since a very long time. That didn't cause any problem to them till date. So we expect it will not cause much problems to common people as well. But consumption is a different thing. Definitely, consumption of sanitizers will cause a problem because it is 70% alcohol. The alcohol which comes in beverages, it's not more than, I think, 30% or something, but this is highly concentrated, so it will definitely cause complications. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. I hope it cleared your
Yeah,
doubt.
I'll get back to you a bit later. Sir, I think Mohan Menon sir is online. Sir, the floor is open for you. Sir, kindly come in. And I suppose you also have a science background, so you will be able to explain that thing much better than me in this aspect, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. And let me first of all say that it was so educative. The presentation, my science knowledge doesn't help. That is obsolete. That was long back. And whatever knowledge I had about COVID and its infection and what it would do, the impact came from the newspapers and some reading, which develops awareness among all. But this presentation, I should say, really was exhaustive and very lucid and very technical things presented in a manner that everyone can understand. I think normally after a presentation, I would always feel that I enjoyed the presentation. I wouldn't say I enjoyed the presentation. It was not very enjoyable because, as one would think that more knowledge sometimes creates more unhappiness to a person. That is unfortunate. I mean that's where world we are living. Otherwise, it is very educative and it really very clearly showed that how careful we should be, especially senior citizens like me. I think has to be much more careful. Even youngsters have to be very careful. I think so. Let me say thank you for the presentation. I was very keenly listening to all the things. Maybe that there are areas in which the technical aspects were involved, but that was explained in a manner that I think I understood all the things that you wanted to convey through that. So thank you for that, first of all. And secondly, that when we talk about the whether it is an engineered one or it could be a mutation, natural mutation, this is whether we like it or not, this is going to have a lot of discussions in future, especially from the political point of view, as one would think. But finally that evidences for that will have to be found by the scientists. Now, can we really differentiate between a human engineered new trait or new sort of virus and a mutated one, naturally mutated one? Is there any way that these could be differentiated? Because this is something which I am sure will come for a much more wider discussions in the world later. And that's only the question immediately coming to my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I would like to say that, yeah, it is not easy, by the way, differentiating man-made or naturally mutated strain of any virus, because if it is so efficiently done, maybe it won't be differentiated. But there are certain possibilities, like there are no chances of combination of sequences of different species naturally. If it is having, for example, I don't exactly remember the name of another viral genetic material part which is incorporated. not incorporated, which is found in while sequencing the coronavirus genome, is that I think it is virus. I don't know the name exactly, but if some other viruses material is found in this particular coronavirus strain, it can give an indication that this is manipulated. Otherwise, this wouldn't be happening naturally. Why or how different species of viruses will come together to give a uh, combination and give a different strain that has the genetic traits of both viruses. This doesn't happen naturally. If it is having the genetic sequences of some other virus, we can say that this might be uh, related by. I hope you advice.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind intervention. I'm sure you will come in later or at a later stage also. Uh, we, we look forward to that as well, sir. Sir, Sukumar sir is online. Sir, Sukumar sir, are you online? Sukumar sir? Sukumar sir, are you online? Yeah, I think sir is online. Sir, please come in.
Audible?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Am I audible?
Audible, sir. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Hello?
You are audible, sir. Perfectly audible.
Audible?
Yes, sir. You are perfectly audible.
Okay. Okay, okay. Okay, okay, okay. That, Parvathy, okay, okay. I think it's a very sensitive topic, but a very nice and very nicely presented by that Parvathy. First of all, I should appreciate her confidence and her clarity, and also I wish her further height in her research and career. So with these words, one or two things I want to clarify from her, because already Dr. Rajesh and Mohan sir has already raised whether it is a human made or it is a normal virus or something. But what's my opinion? Because this coronavirus in the olden days also, even our plus two level we studied, and this coronavirus was existed and lived along with the human being, but not this much a pandemic we have never come across. So only after this 2019 onwards, we have been so much that pandemic effects because of this virus we are witnessing. So my that assumptions or my strong opinion, it is a man-made disaster only. Also, normally we used to talk about next world war will be only through bio world war only, because first world war, second world war, always people used to tell next world war will be a bio war only. So this is also the symptom, because not only now, but as now, just like Parvathy also mentioned, in the many laboratories on the global level, people are working on the lines of this type of virus, because anything happens in the world level or something, then I think the people make use of this type of virus. That's what people are talking. Just I want to hear from that comments from that Parvathy. Also, that what about that our the proper medicines, or that why? Because we are not able to find out. People are telling that because proper structure, because natural virus means that people can determine and predict the proper structure, because it is a man-made virus. So it is people are very difficult. Even the global level, they are working for last, even science and technology this much advanced. Yeah, in spite for last 1 year, people are working for global level, but they are very difficult to find out the remedial solution also. Also, for which also people are telling it is because it is a man-made virus, so that a proper structure is very difficult to determine. Once the structure is determined properly, then only one can find out the proper remedial solutions, that means the form of the medicine. That is also just people telling, just I want to hear from your Parvathy comment. That symptoms, now that you can see when the olden times, people suffered with the cough and some fever or whatever, some symptoms. Now just I have come across, even I know some people, without any symptoms, people used to go to hospitals for delivery or some other type of any treatment. Once that hospital people used to get that blood test, then they find out that it's a positive. So even without symptoms, I think even we are thinking that we are not get affected and we are perfect. Even for small treatment or anything, we are going to hospitals. Then that blood test. Nowadays hospitals, whenever we go to any treatment, first they are getting that blood test. Once they get blood test, it is a positive. So such a situation we are living, whether we are not able to identify whether we are actually affected or not. Such a way we are living. So how to overcome this type of things without symptoms, and we are thinking that we are very perfect, but I think suddenly just we feel come to know that just we are affected with the virus. So how to overcome this type of that this one also. These are my things I want to hear from Ms. Parvathy. That one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your feedback, sir. So, I would like to say that we cannot conclude if this is a man-made virus or a naturally mutated virus, because there are so many speculations around this, and we cannot come to a conclusion. And studies are going around the world, and there is a possibility that this can be a naturally uh, mutated one, because mutations are always sudden changes in genetic sequences. So, as you said, sir, you said coronaviruses were there years back, and we didn't have any disease at that point of time, and till 2019 we coexisted with coronavirus strains, and uh, all on a sudden these coronaviruses became pathogenic. So uh, in the course of evolution, if we study evolution, sudden changes have definitely happened, not just in case of viruses, in case of every species. Like just like the way dinosaurs disappeared, you can expect a mutation which makes the coronavirus strain so aggressive that it can cause a pandemic. uh, and yeah, that is quite possible. When we study evolution, it says there are chances for viruses to mutate all on a sudden to give rise to very aggressive pathogenic strains. But as you mentioned, sir, we cannot neglect the possibility of um, genetically engineered version of this virus. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, there are so many discussions and debates going on around the world, saying that China did manipulate such kind of a virus so that it could become the most powerful nation in the world. So it needs a lot of research and studies in much more depth to confirm it, and we cannot come to a conclusion right now. And another factor of another thing you mentioned was it is not naturally evolved, it is human made, which is making it difficult for scientists to find out a medicine or a cure for it. So sir, one more finding is that the mutation rate is quite high. It is quite good in case of coronavirus. There are around 30 to 35 strains found out all over the world, which means even if you are producing a single vaccine against this virus, not necessarily it will uh, give protection against the rest 34 strains. So all the problems arise from the fact that it is mutating. So the strain found in New York is different from that of the strain found in India. So a vaccine given to patients in India cannot be given to vaccine um, cannot be given to patients in New York. So that is how the difference makes a complication in uh, finding out treatment protocol. And like any other antiviral drugs, general antiviral drugs are administered in this case also. So another this is why it is very difficult to find out drugs or vaccine in case of this coronavirus. And since the replication mechanism is very similar, like the is using our body's own mechanism. If we are blocking that process, our cells will also get affected. That has always been a challenge in all kinds of viral infections, and it exists in this case also. That's all within the limit of my knowledge, sir. I hope it clarified your doubt at least to an extent.
Yeah, thank you very much, Parvathy, because just what I told, because it's a coronavirus, because it is not a new virus, it is a old virus only. In the college level, school level, people studied also. Many research carried out on this this virus, coronavirus, and many people got the PhD also on that coronavirus in the research also. Such a very elaborate research and study already happened. But suddenly, just we are just worried about that coronavirus after 2019. That's why just to ask, people are very much coming presuming that it is a man-made virus or something. Secondly, also people are telling that even the natural virus, because now you can see that coronavirus entire the global, it is spreading. Normally, people are telling the global that in the natural virus, not this much level with this much strength, it cannot spread entire that global level. Maybe some countries may be affected, some countries may not be affected. What you told also about that our vaccine, because you also mentioned the vaccine may suit to America, but it may not suit to India or some other countries. Same way, just people are telling that a natural virus means it may suit for some countries, it may not suit to some countries because of temperature and other factors. But this particular virus, again, then the global level, it is with full strength, it is spreading and it is affecting that human body and everything. That is why people are presuming that it is made with a human-made virus. That's what just I want to share with you, and I want to that your comments also on these aspects. That's all. Anyway, just you clarified to your level. Well, I thank you very much, Ms. Parvathy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your very valuable comments and the response that Ms. Parvathy has given on this particular issue. One related area that I think which will span up from what Sumar sir just now mentioned is the aspect of human-animal interaction. That is how this strain, which is originally supposed to be a mutation of a certain kind of virus obtained in animals, could actually spread so easily into humans. So obviously in the animal world, there will be some variations. I'm a layman. So basically in the animal world, the kind of virus that suits animals could be at variance with the kind of virus that you find itself suiting in humans. So how could this transmission take place at such a easy rate once the first person was infected? Any comments on that?
Well, sir, so there are bats being a very well studied host organism for many viruses, just like Nipah. Uh, there are certain molecular level similarities between other. It is also a mammal. Bats are mammals. So molecular level similarity is that like I mentioned, the ACE2 receptor, which is responsible for taking in this virus. uh, might be similar to an extent between bats and human beings. Like all the mammals have quite a similar form of ACE2 receptor. So the mammalian level of similarity at the molecular level of cells could have enhanced the uh, level of possibility of infection, which was by a virus which was earlier hosted by a bat. And we all know that the eating habits of people from China is very different than that of the other parts of the world, and they eat raw meat. If cooked, maybe that would have got damaged. They have the habit of eating this raw meat, and uh, this is the first time a disease that emerged in China spread all over the world, which is why we are discussing about it. Otherwise, also so many diseases are reported very frequently in China. Just because their transmission rate is very low, they don't get spread to other parts of the world. Because of their eating habits, many uh, uh, viruses which are hosted by other animals infect do get to infect human beings because of their eating habits, and that might have happened in this case also. Um and as you said, a sudden mutation when it infected the index patient wouldn't have happened for sure. It would have happened gradually. Uh, there would have been some similarity. There is definitely similarities between the cells of other mammals and human beings, and that is how they must have entered our cells. And after different courses of the infection, like the person who got the infection in China took it to some other country, and in different continents, in different populations, it must have gone through so many mutations. But a sudden mutation in index patient wouldn't have happened, as far as I think. So.
Okay, thank you so much. Uh, Dorothy, madam, are you online? Adi question, Dr. Dorothy, are you online? I think madam.
Sir, madam didn't join. Even.
Madam didn't join. Okay, fine. Because.
Joined,
Okay.
sir. Sir, I am joined.
Okay, ma'am.
I am very sorry. I have come in the mobile, so I am not
no problem, madam.
your thing because
Would you like to interact, madam?
Yes, sir. I
Thank
very
you, madam.
at the outset, I appreciate Madam Parvathy's presentation. It, as Professor Menon said, no, it was very simple and it reached the target audience. No, it's covering everyone into the framework. One interesting thing which she told, which I want to highlight, is the role of the liver, how it gets regenerated. Its nature itself is like that, and it's the organ where the metabolism of protein, fat, and carbohydrates happens. So, it looks like it is the last organ to get affected. That's why, when the people, I mean, the respiratory tract, it gets affected first, and then the last one is this, and there is loss of appetite. Everything goes along with that. And the uniqueness of this disease is that we cannot identify it common cold or something else, and one more thing is also this compulsory quarantine, and also the mental framework, more than the public authorities, it is the neighbors or the local people who, even if one cough is there, they keep ringing that helpline, I believe. So all that makes a person not to disclose even if they have. That makes it more contagious. And if, as Sugma sir was sharing, it looks like that, the newspapers also say that without asymptomatic carriers or more, and then the awareness that they are not being a part of it is also gaining momentum, which is making the disease more commonly spread. that's why, actually, a take-home message during this Onam festival is, if you're going to the shop, you should not go anywhere else. You should not go to any relative's place or come to office or something else. You have to go back straight and have a wash. And the simple thing about this thing is washing hands with ordinary Sabina. I mean, this dishwasher, that liquid soap content itself is enough to kill it. And then flow of water. See how we goggle a mouth. I mean, in that much water doesn't go inside our throat. That small quantity of water is enough to prevent it being settled in the throat. That is also a newspaper item it gives. And the uniqueness of the virus is, as Parvathy Madam was sharing, the aggressiveness varies upon on whom it survives. So it depends upon the host, the immune system. That's why immunity plays an important role in withstanding this disease, and also a disease condition. So as Dr. Rajesh was sharing, individual disease condition and human interaction, and also this mutagen and then human interaction, plus their response to this disease condition, meaning the psychological, the physiological, and also the framework of support they get from the society, all matters in getting back to the normal life. And I really like the presentation. Of course, initial period I could not get it, but Madam, uniqueness of Parvathy Madam's presentation was she was just recalling the earlier things which made me to catch what I missed also. Thank you and congratulations to Madam Parvathy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your very insightful presentation. In fact, there was much to be gained from what you just now stated, Dorothy, madam. In fact, there are a lot of points, mission which you made, which has nourished the discussion as such. Thank you, madam. Thank you for your intervention. Sindhu, madam, is online. Sindhu, madam.
Actually, sir,
There was a message on my mobile also.
Yeah, actually, Sindhu ma'am sent a message on mobile saying she's not able to connect, sir.
Yeah.
So she just shared a message for Parvathy on my message box, sir. Can I just share to her, sir?
Sure.
Yeah. If Parvathy is able to hear, I'll just like to share Sindhu ma'am's message to her. Hearty congratulations to dear Parvathy and proud parents, our dear colleague Dr. Jalja madam. I share great joy that she is making a learned presentation today. My best wishes to dear Parvathy, and may Almighty bless her. May you achieve great heights and success in all your endeavors. Would definitely look forward to hear the presentation recordings. Congratulations once again, dear Parvathy. So this was a message shared to you by Sindhu madam. I just read it out for you. So congratulations, dear Parvathy.
Thank you.
Over to you, Rajesh sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for reading out the message from Sindhu madam. It was really heartening to know that the presentation made by Parvathy was really well appreciated across the board. And it, frankly speaking, it was no surprise for me because I have been keeping in touch with her accomplishments over a period of time. So I have seen her blossom out as a very well-rounded researcher. And of course, hopefully she will be attaining many more heights in the times to come. Now, Pramila madam, are you online?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Would you like to come in, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Nothing to add, sir. But I take this opportunity to congratulate Miss Parvathy for her excellent presentation. It's very informative and very nice one. I wish her all the success in her future life. Thank you, sir. And
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And Jalja madam, would you like to come in? Are you online, Jalja madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kindly come in, madam.
As usual, I cannot because.
No, but keeping apart the fact that she's your daughter, you can definitely come in and make your comments, madam.
And not only because of that, I am not a specialist in this field. Also, I heard something about her when she was sharing everything when she was going through all the experiences, experiment and all. That is my experience and knowledge in this particular field only. But even though we got, I think all of us were getting a lot of information regarding how this coronavirus is working in our body in many organs, how it is being affected, and what is the after effect of all these things and all. That was very informative, really. Whoever is presented, that is not the matter, but it was very informative and also. And I have to congratulate her at her this studentship stage. She was presenting and she showed the confidence to do it. Only because of her, because she was not confident to present. She cannot ask anybody, can I present one paper like this to any other person in this work? I think except Rajesh sir, that much bravely. And because of your kindness only, she got this opportunity to present before such an august audience. That is also one thing. Anyway, congratulations, and I'm very much happy that very seriously all the experts were asking questions and all. And I think that she has to answer one question of Rajesh sir. Sir was asking about the alcoholic effect of washing and all. Isn't it, sir?
Yes. I was supposed to come back at the end to it, so that others could also express their views.
But Madam Vatakara has given a little bit explanation about it, I think.
Yeah.
That is also one. Nothing else, sir. That's all. Thank you very much.
Madam, thank you. In fact, there was no part of my kindness or anything. In fact, she could have been called well in advance as well, because kind of presentation that she made, it validated the choice of speaker because it was very informative, very thorough, and excellently well made. So even if it had been anyone else in my place, they would have been only too happy to invite her for her erudite scholarship on this particular area. So wonderful. There is absolutely no doubt as such. Satheesh Cheta, would you like to come in? By the way, I would like to introduce Satheesh. He is the father of Parvathy. Would you like to come in, Satheesh Cheta? Audio can do problem. Yeah, please.
Hello.
Audible. I think it is audible, sir.
Hello.
Audible. Parnolu. Hello. Hello. Okay, I think Chairman would log in at a later stage, would come in. Prasida, your personal views and any questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Congratulations, dear Parvathy. It was very enriching and informative session, I must say. And I think some disturbance is there. I think so, sir.
You continue. I will.
Yeah. So first, I think am I audible?
Yeah, you are Prasida. You are audible.
So, Parvati, let me congratulate you for this informative and enriching presentation. I must say, the session was very knowledgeful, and you introduced us to many medical terminologies which we were not aware about this COVID-19 pandemic situation. Uh, and I really appreciate your efforts in making us aware about all these aspects, I must say. And just a small query from my side, since you have spoken from a medical perspective, Parvati. Just as a futuristic view, you were just mentioning also that vaccines will be different for every country. And I recently heard that Russia is trying to transfer some technology of the vaccine to India as well. So, will that be effective for the Indian, or India has to develop its own indigenous vaccine? And what are the views on it? And I would also like to ask you one more question in a just futuristic manner. When will we medically we actually be able to tide over this crisis as well? I know it's a very futuristic question I am asking you, but your suggestions and view on the same. And thank you so much, Parvati. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your appreciation. And as I mentioned, vaccine development is not an easy job in this in case of coronavirus, because it's not necessarily that different countries will need different vaccines. uh, there are certain parts of the virus which are very conserved and which would not change, and for such conserved protein or DNA sequences, if used for producing vaccine, or if that are they are made as a target of the vaccine, then there would not be any need of different vaccines all over the world for different countries. If the vaccine targets some conserved parts of the virus, it can be a universal or a global vaccine which can come into action. uh, this is being researched, since Russia is claiming that they did develop a vaccine, um, and uh, uh, they will transfer, or they will share it with other countries. We cannot say that it will be very safe, because for any vaccine or drug to be developed and completely acceptable by population, it really needs to go through various levels of clinical trials. It has to go through phase 1, 2, and 3, and the last phase of clinical trial will require a large number of people to be exposed to this particular vaccine or virus for a very long time, like for 6 months maybe. It differs according to the experimental protocol generally, but as instructed by the National Institute of Health, it has to go through all the phases. Since the Russian vaccine has not gone through all the phases, because we are just 8 months away from the beginning of the infection itself, so we cannot say it is completely successful until it is tested mm, among a mass uh, number of people, and we need to see if it has any long term side effect or any other problem if administered to a large number of people in a population. So for that we need time for the assessment of the vaccine, but people might take the risk to take a chance, because we just need to get out of this pandemic and this suffocating condition. And uh, as you asked, ma'am, even I am also no one to say when we will be able to uh, recover from this condition. We are socially restricted and even mentally restricted under this pandemic condition since last few months. I hope we all can get back to our normal as soon as possible, since Serum Institute of Pune is developing the Oxford vaccine, which they are claiming will be coming out by December or next year. Let's all hope for the best. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Parvathy, for your comments on the same. Thank you so much, and congratulations to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that is the best possible way in which this question can be answered. And one thing I should appreciate about the whole presentation, which Ms. Parvati made, is the kind of confidence and the ease with which she presented the subject matter. That would be reminiscent of a professional in the field. In fact, to speak in such a manner right at this the start of her career is something very wonderful, and we should all compliment her for this kind of a voice and confidence that she has, and the grasp of the subject matter. Thank you. And another important, do we have Praveen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Praveen, are you online? Could you kindly come in?
Very much, sir. Yeah.
Please.
First of all, I wish to congratulate our presenter, Parvathy Satheesh, for her wonderful presentation. And she had explained it with a lot of illustrations, and it was very informative, especially for a layperson and a non-science people. We are not totally into science background, and it will be and it has really given us a perspective on COVID and its long-term effects and how it she has explained it very well and very thoroughly. Congratulate her as well as Jalja Kumari. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Praveen. Thank you for your work, and it was really wonderful. Sir, Mohammed, sir, would you like to come in?
Yes, I mean, I have a couple of questions came to my mind during this discussion. One is that we have been hearing about the whole concept of herd immunity. Herd immunity. See, that's something which is, of course, as a layperson, one would say that it is an immunity that gets developed in the group, in the community. But what actually it really means, that is number one. And number two, how that gets developed with even you don't get exposed to the virus itself. I mean, when we quarantine ourselves or isolate ourselves completely from the, and then you, in a way, you are trying to, you are in making them that those people in the community less immune. You know, that's the doubt that is coming to one's mind. That is number one. And number two is that we have been seeing that the scientists who are working, or even the doctors who are from the allopathy school of thought, has been trying. We all mostly depend on that in this world. And although there have been criticisms about the ethics of many things that they do, but we though probably don't have a definite alternative, although there are alternative medicines available like Ayurveda or homeopathy, etc. But I did find that there has been a definite move against the alternative medicines. When they were coming out with certain says that, okay, this is something which will help. Maybe in the case of immunity, general agreement, yes, we all know that several type of Ayurveda or herbs and all improves. Maybe the allopathy school may not have anything against that. But when it comes to the cure for that and all, even there are cases of people being arrested for telling that, you know, that we have a cure for that. It may be true that, I mean, that may be a completely a fox. I mean, that's also possible. But my question is basically the ethics of a treatment or dealing with a question which is not completely known to us. We don't know fully about this. None of us. I mean, even those people who have studied that also cannot definitely say that something else that somebody is doing is not going to cure. Definitely. You know, we are all in the case of being somewhere, you know, in a hypothesis situation in many cases. We may not have come out with a theory for the whole thing. So this is not a purely scientific related question. It's partly a political question also, but or the ethical question is, why do we have to stop the other cures which are being suggested by other alternative medicine? When we are dealing with an enemy which is not known completely, and we as a humanity, we have to deal with that. So this is a second question that I have. I mean, I'm not really asking for a full answer from Ms. Parvathy. I mean, that's not the point. This is something which came to our mind often, that maybe that you start philosophizing also things. Because I was in the lighter vein when I was listening to this presentation. I was remembering Mahagavi Akitham's poetry. Velicham Dukkamelle Unni, Tamasalle Sugagaram, and Dr. Jalajakumari will surely support that. Sometimes we feel that, as an old man sitting here, is probably better not to know about those things. You have a happy time during this and then try to do whatever, which is not the right approach, but that was in a lighter vein, I said, the last part. But the first two questions are much more, definitely something which we'll have to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, sir. I would like to address your query regarding herd immunity. Herd immunity is something, a concept in which we expect the majority of the population to get affected or to get exposed to the virus once, so that their immune system itself becomes resistant to further infection. So, while talking about such an experiment in COVID-19, it is quite risky because since I did let all of you know about the risk factors involved in COVID-19 disease. It's not just the 2 or 3 weeks of infection which is actually important. There can be lots and lots of long-term effects also. So herd immunity is not, I think it is not a practical option. And it requires majority of the to be exposed to the virus and get infected, which we cannot afford that to happen. That which is why all the physicians and scientists all over the world are trying hard to develop a vaccine against this. And sir, you asked about how we attain herd immunity and not if infected, like when we are sitting at home and all. So nowadays, in majority of the cases, the infection is asymptomatic, which means some or the other way, maybe our immune system is evolving its own to tackle this, which is why in majority of people it is not showing any symptoms. So the problem arises only when there is symptomatic infection. Asymptomatic infection is absolutely okay if not transferred or transmitted to another person who can be vulnerable. So in many cases, only mass rapid testing we get to know that many people were infected. We did not have any symptoms. So in those cases, they are definitely developing immunity. They might be getting the disease to somebody else, but they are developing immunity. So even if we say that we are sitting at home, not going anywhere, maybe one of our family members might be going outside and getting exposed to the virus and bringing home the virus. In those cases, without getting the disease, with all the symptoms, we might be exposed to the disease. I mean, disease causing virus, and that we may develop some immunity. So it's not always necessary that you should get the disease to develop immunity. So in herd immunity, if that is also a way people are getting immune resistant to this disease, it will be okay. But herd immunity is a very risky thing. And so your second question was the why allopathy is only uh, coming in the front line disease defense. Maybe because other medical options like Ayurveda or homeopathy, they are not having good infrastructure. That is definitely one point, because you need life support system like ventilators and all. You need a good human resource in the medical system, which is not available in Ayurveda or homeopathy in our country, for not in just our country, all around the world. Allopathy is much more facilitated with infrastructure as well as human resource. Maybe that is why the governments are not taking the risk of handing over such a huge responsibility to the hands of people from Ayurveda or homeopathy. And allopathy is like uh, one very common thing we all know about allopathy is the medicinal effects are very quick. The responses triggered in the patient by administering the allopathic drugs are very quick, and in case of a pandemic we definitely need a quick response from the patients. We cannot take a risk of delaying the response uh, and getting a cure. Even if that cure is much more efficient, the time consumption definitely is a factor. So maybe that is why there is more concentration of frontline defense in allopathic medicine. So I hope that clarifies your doubts, sir.
Yes, yes, of course. I think you are absolutely correct. But what I'm little unhappy about is the antagonism sometimes shown by the allopathy to the other alternatives, rather than working together. And maybe this is the time that the different alternative medicines should probably even sit together. I have not seen, at least I might not have observed. It's possible that there has been a proper dialogue that is happening among the three medicines. That is in Kerala context. I would say that Ayurveda and this. I know that there are very eminent Ayurvedic physicians like Ayurveda Shala and all coming and they're talking about this, but all of them are little worried. Are they crossing the line by telling the people that you do certain things or not doing certain things? Because they themselves can be penalized for that. Maybe Ayurveda Shala may not be, but a smaller the physician, Ayurvedic physician might get. I think the politically, this is of course the issue, not an issue of the scientists themselves or the doctors themselves, but there seems to be lack of cooperation among the alternative medicines in dealing with a common enemy. After all, we developed all the three, and governments have accepted the practice of all the three in a given context, in a social context. I think that probably is lacking. I'm not asking for an answer from you, but this is only just an observation that I am making, because these are things which is what one should learn from these experiences. That I think there is a need to cooperate. Even cooperation among countries becomes a little difficult, as one would see. Forget about, I mean, allopathy doctors themselves from different countries, even not WHO not being properly understood and then being questioned. All these are, maybe these are all part of a pandemic situation where there is an emergency. People are panicky. That's also a possibility. So I was just flagging that point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a very important point. Aspect related to medical
Sir,
ethics.
can I little bit interfere, sir?
Yeah, yes, madam. Yes, madam. Please come.
Because these 2 points, I really want to add one point to Mahan Menon, sir. Humbly, I request Mahan Menon, sir, too.
Yeah, what is that? Yeah, I didn't.
Yes, sir. Sir, the government level also, one important point sir was sharing. From our government point also, through Panchayat, now the immunity medicine means the preventive medicine from homeopathy medicines is distributed now everywhere in our country, in our state, especially in Kerala, because people may have some confidence. That is one thing. It's a psychological approach also, and more than that, preventive medicines are being distributed everywhere. We don't know how much of people were accepting it and using it properly. So that effort was from our government. And more than that, I think I have confidence in Ayurveda than allopathy, and I am always depending on Ayurvedic doctor for I have severe arthritic issues. And I have spondylitis also. Nowadays it is very severe, and I am getting the treatment from Ayurvedic medicine only. And I think many cases, Parvathy was also of the opinion that a constant cure or the rebuilding of body or the regeneration of many of the cells are being done through Ayurveda only. She was also of the opinion of many cases. Particularly of this case, I think people are threatened with the immediate effect of coronavirus and all. We are not experimenting with Ayurveda. But one thing is there, sir. Everywhere the natural cures and precautions we are taking by making kashayam and all. മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയുന്നതായിരിക്കും നല്ലത്. അതുപോലെ ആടലോടകം, തുളസി, പിന്നെ പനിക്കുറുക്ക മുതലായ ഇതെല്ലാം കൂടി ഇട്ടിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ശർക്കരയും ചുക്കും ഇഞ്ചിയും ഒക്കെ ചേർത്ത് കുരുമുളകും ചേർത്ത് നമ്മൾ ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്ന കഷായം ആഴ്ചയിൽ ഒരിക്കലെങ്കിലും ചെറിയ ചൂടോടുകൂടി കുടിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് ഇതിനെ പ്രിവെന്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ വളരെ നല്ലതാണെന്ന് ജനറലി പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, ആളുകൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇവിടെ അത് സ്ഥിരമായി ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സാധനമാണ്. ആഴ്ചയിൽ ഒരു ദിവസം വെച്ച് ഞങ്ങളിവിടെ കുടിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ അത് ഒരു ഗവൺമെന്റ് തലത്തിലുള്ള ഒരു ഇംപ്ലിമെന്റേഷൻ ഒന്നും നടക്കാത്തത് കൊണ്ടായിരിക്കും ഒരു പക്ഷേ അങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കുന്നത് എന്നെനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു. അപ്പൊ ചെറിയ തോതിലെങ്കിലും നമ്മുടെ ആ വിശ്വാസം ഇപ്പോഴും ആളുകളിലുണ്ട്. ആയുർവേദം മെഡിസിൻ കുറച്ചുകൂടെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്. എന്നെ സംബന്ധിച്ച് രാജേഷ് സാറിനൊക്കെ അറിയാൻ, ഞാൻ ലീവ് എടുത്ത് മെഡിക്കൽ ട്രീറ്റ്മെന്റ് നടത്തിയിട്ടുള്ള ആളാണ്. എനിക്ക് കാൽഷ്യം ഡെഫിഷ്യൻസി കൊണ്ട് വലിയ പ്രശ്നങ്ങളുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോഴും ഉണ്ട്, ഇല്ലെന്നല്ല. എനിക്ക് ബോൺ ഡെൻസിറ്റി വളരെ കുറവാണ്. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് കുറച്ച് പ്രശ്നങ്ങളുണ്ട്. എന്റെ നഖം ഇങ്ങനെ പൊട്ടുമായിരുന്നു കാൽഷ്യം ഡെഫിഷ്യൻസി കൊണ്ട്. എത്ര കാൽഷ്യം ഗുളിക കഴിച്ചാലും അതിനൊരു വ്യത്യാസവും വന്നില്ല. അവസാനം ഞാൻ ആയുർവേദിക് പഞ്ചകർമ്മ ട്രീറ്റ്മെന്റ് ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പം എന്റെ നഖം പുതിയതായി സൃഷ്ടിച്ചു വന്നതുപോലെ എനിക്ക് ഏറ്റവും ഒരു എവിഡന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു കാര്യമാണ് എഫക്ട്, റീജനറേഷൻ എഫക്ട് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ അതെനിക്ക് അനുഭവമുണ്ട്. ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു 3-4 വർഷമായിട്ട് ഞാൻ ഒരു മെഡിസിനും അതിന്മേൽ ചെയ്തിട്ടില്ലാത്തതുകൊണ്ട് ഇപ്പൊ എനിക്ക് വീണ്ടും പ്രശ്നമാണ്. പക്ഷെ എങ്കിലും അത് പണ്ടത്തെ പോലൊന്നുമല്ല. അപ്പൊ ആ ഒരു റീജനറേറ്റീവ് മെഡിസിൻ എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ ഏറ്റവും എഫക്റ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ളത് ആയുർവേദം തന്നെയാണ്, അതിന് യാതൊരു സംശയമില്ല. പക്ഷെ ഇതൊന്നും ഇതുപോലുള്ള ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷനിൽ ഇമ്മീഡിയറ്റ് എഫക്ട് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ പറ്റാത്തത് കൊണ്ടും വൈഡ് സ്പ്രെഡ് ആയിട്ട് ഡിസ്ട്രിബ്യൂട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റാത്തത് കൊണ്ടും sometimes it may be not considered as a platform for cure. That is what I was adding the effect of Ayurveda and homeopathy, sir. That's all.
So can I interfere?
Yeah, please.
ഡോക്ടർ ജലജകുമാരി പറഞ്ഞതിൽ ഞാൻ കംപ്ലീറ്റ് യോജിക്കുന്നു. നമ്മൾ പലരും ഇത് കഴിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, ഇത് ഞങ്ങളും കഴിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇതെല്ലാം നമ്മുടെ സ്വന്തമായിട്ടുള്ള നമ്മുടെ ഒരു വിശ്വാസം എന്നല്ല എന്നെ പറയുന്നത്, നമ്മുടെ ട്രസ്റ്റ് ഇൻ ദ ആയുർവേദ മെഡിസിന്റെ ഇതുകൊണ്ട് ഇമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിക്ക് പല കേരളങ്ങളിൽ ചിറ്റമൃത് അങ്ങനെ പലതും ഉണ്ട്. ഇപ്പോൾ കീഴാർനെല്ലി പോലും പറയുന്നു ഇതിന് നല്ലതാണെന്ന് പറയുന്നു. അങ്ങനെ അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞതിന്റെ ഉദ്ദേശം, നമ്മൾ ആയുർവേദത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ വിശ്വസിച്ച് ഇതിൽ ട്രീറ്റ്മെന്റ് എടുക്കുന്നവരുണ്ട്, ശരിയാണ്, അതിന്റെ ഇഫക്റ്റും ഉണ്ട്, അതിനൊന്നും എനിക്ക് സംശയമില്ല. ഇനി പക്ഷെ ഞാൻ പറയുന്ന ഇത് കാര്യം, നമ്മൾ ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ വരുന്ന സമയത്ത് കുറച്ചും കൂടെ കോർഡിനേറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഇഫക്റ്റ് ഒരു മെഡിക്കൽ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റിയുടെ ഇന്ന് വേണ്ടേ എന്നുള്ളതാണ് ഞാൻ ചോദിക്കുന്ന ചോദ്യം. അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. അല്ലാതെ മറ്റാ ഞാൻ എഗ്രി ചെയ്യുന്നു.
So 1 minute, can I interfere?
Please wait.
Okay.
Or would you like any other? Audible?
Actually, PS, please.
മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാം.
അല്ല ആദ്യം ഓക്കെ.
കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല, ഒട്ടും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
ഹലോ,
ഇപ്പൊ കേൾക്കാൻ പറഞ്ഞു.
നേരത്തെ സാറ് ചോദിച്ച ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ്റെ ആണ് എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ആയുർവേദവും അലോപ്പതി തമ്മിലുള്ള ഒരു കോൺട്രവേഴ്സി എന്നുള്ളത്. അപ്പം അപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ പറയാനുള്ളത്, ഒന്നാമത്തത് ആയുർവേദ ആയിക്കോട്ടെ ഹോമിയോപ്പതി ആയിക്കോട്ടെ അതിന് അവരുടെ ചികിത്സ ഒരു സയന്റിഫിക് ബാക്കപ്പ് ഇല്ല. പകരം അത് ഇങ്ങനെ ചെയ്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മൾ ഈ മെഡിസിൻ ഇതിന് ഫലപ്രദമായി കണ്ടു എന്നുള്ളത് മാത്രമാണ്. അതേസമയം അലോപ്പതിയിലെ ചികിത്സാ രീതി വരുന്നത് ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് ഹ്യൂമൻ ട്രയൽസ് കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടാണ് ഓരോ മെഡിസിൻസും പുറത്ത് വരുന്നത്. അപ്പം ആണ് അലോപ്പതിക് മെഡിസിൻസ് പുറത്തേക്ക് വരുന്നിട്ടുള്ളത്. ക്ലിനിക്കൽ ട്രയൽസും ഹ്യൂമൻ ട്രയൽസും കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടാണ് പുറത്ത് ഇറങ്ങുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഇപ്പൊ അധികമായി നടക്കുന്നത് റീപർപ്പസ്ഡ് ഡ്രഗ്സ് ആണ് ഇപ്പൊ അധികം നമ്മൾ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, ഈ കൊറോണയ്ക്കായാലും. അപ്പം ഉൾപ്പെട്ടതെല്ലാം നമ്മളിപ്പം ഇൻഫ്ലമേഷൻ ആണെങ്കിൽ ഇൻഫ്ലമേഷന് ഓരോ ഇൻഹിബിറ്റേഴ്സ് കൊടുക്കുന്നു. IL-6 ഓരോ ഇൻഫ്ലമേഷൻ ഇപ്പം മെയിൻ ആയിട്ട് കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത് ഇപ്പം ആർത്രൈറ്റിസിന്റെ മെഡിസിൻസ് കൊടുക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ റീപർപ്പസ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള പല രീതിക്കുള്ള ഡ്രഗ്സും ആണ് നമ്മളിപ്പം കൊറോണയ്ക്ക് പല സ്ഥലത്തും ഉപയോഗിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പം അതിനൊക്കെ വ്യക്തമായിട്ടും കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് എങ്ങനെയാണത് ഹ്യൂമൻ ബോഡിയിൽ ആക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഹ്യൂമൻ ശരീരത്തിൽ ചേഞ്ചസ് ഉണ്ടാകുന്നത്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കൊറോണ എങ്ങനെയാണ് ആ ആളെ എഫക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, അതിനുള്ള ചികിത്സയാണ് അലോപ്പതിയിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മോഡേൺ മെഡിസിനിൽ കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ ആയുർവേദയിൽ അങ്ങനെയല്ല കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പം കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് എന്താണോ രോഗം, എങ്ങനെയാണോ ഒരാളുടെ ശരീരത്തിനെ കൊറോണ വൈറസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഏതൊരു വൈറസും എഫക്ട് ചെയ്തത്, അയാളുടെ ശരീരത്തിൽ എന്താണോ അതിനെയാണ് മോഡേൺ മെഡിസിനിൽ ചികിത്സിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. അതിന് കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ക്ലിനിക്കൽ ട്രയൽസും എല്ലാം നടന്ന മെഡിസിൻസ് ആണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. പിന്നെ വേറൊരു കാര്യം എന്നുള്ളത്, എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഇതിനെല്ലാം അടച്ചാക്ഷേപിക്കുന്നത് എന്നുള്ളൊരു കാര്യം, അധിക ബാബ രാംദേവിന്റെ വന്ന സാധനം ആയിക്കോട്ടെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പാപ്പറ്റ്സ് ആയിക്കോട്ടെ, ഏത് രീതിയിലുള്ള ഇപ്പം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പൊ ഹോമിയോപ്പതി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഹോമിയോ മെഡിസിൻസ്, ഇപ്പം മാം പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ഹോമിയോ മെഡിസിൻസ് എല്ലാം ഇപ്പൊ അവൈലബിൾ ആണ്. പക്ഷെ അതെല്ലാം ഇമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ബൂസ്റ്റർ എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ മാത്രമേ ഇപ്പം എത്തിയിട്ടുള്ളൂ. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അത് എഫക്റ്റീവ് ആണെന്നോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇത്ര പേര് കഴിച്ചതിൽ അവർക്ക് വരാതിരുന്നെന്നോ അത് പ്രതിരോധം നൽകുന്നുണ്ടോ എന്നുള്ളതിനൊന്നും യാതൊരുവിധ സയന്റിഫിക് എവിഡൻസും ഇല്ല. അപ്പൊ നമുക്കൊരു ബ്ലൈൻഡ് ആയിട്ട് നമ്മൾ അതിനെ വിശ്വസിക്കാം. അതായത് നമുക്ക് വിശ്വാസം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് വിശ്വസിക്കാം എന്നുള്ളത്, യാതൊരുവിധ സയന്റിഫിക് ബാക്കപ്പോ സയന്റിഫിക് എവിഡൻസോ അതിനില്ല. അപ്പം ഇമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി ബൂസ്റ്ററായിട്ട് നമുക്ക് വേണമെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പം കഴിക്കാം. അപ്പം കഴിഞ്ഞ തവണ ഞാനൊരു സെമിനാർ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്തപ്പോൾ അതിനകത്തുള്ള പ്രൊഫസർ പറഞ്ഞു, ഈസ് റിസർച്ചിങ് ഓൺ എന്താ പറയുക, എങ്ങനെയാണ് സ്പൈസസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇന്ത്യൻ ഡയറ്റ്സ് വൈറൽ ഡിസീസിന്റെ മോൾ എഫക്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതിലുള്ള റിസർച്ച് ഒക്കെ നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ അതിനൊന്നും ഇതുവരെ സയന്റിഫിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള എവിഡൻസ് എവിടുന്നും ലഭിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ പൊതുവെ എന്തിനാണ് വെറുതെ റിസ്ക് എടുക്കുന്നത്, ഇതിന്റെ മുകളിൽ ആൾക്കാർ വിശ്വസിച്ചിട്ട് എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് മോഡേൺ മെഡിസിൻ നമ്മൾ തഴയേണ്ട അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇതിന്റെ മുകളിൽ ബ്ലൈൻഡ് ആയിട്ട് വിശ്വസിക്കേണ്ട എന്നുള്ളൊരു ടേക്ക് ആയിരിക്കണം. കാരണം ഇപ്പൊ ഒരു ക്രിട്ടിക്കൽ കണ്ടീഷനാണ്. നമ്മള് റിസ്ക് എടുക്കാനുള്ള ഒരു ടൈമോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിനുള്ളൊരു പ്രായോഗികത നമുക്കില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ടായിരിക്കാം.
I think that is a point which needs to be considered. Evidence as such is something that has to be brought into the framework. So evidence in the issue എന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ it depends on research. Now over the Ayurveda or homeopathy in many aspects have been proved to be very effective in very many cases. There is absolutely no doubt. Uttiri cases that has been backed by evidence. I consider a point that which has been made by Mr. Akshay is that in the short run, evidence is a casualty in many cases. And that, if you look at it in that perspective, even many of the coronavirus vaccines which are under preparation, they are also undergoing clinical trial only. There needs to be concrete evidence which has to be backed up. So all this is a matter of evidence, but what Pawan Menon sir and Jaljomari madam were stating in real terms is that there has to be complementarity between various branches of medicine, and that is very important. Just because there is a there is a lack of evidence, we cannot think that complementarity need not be in place. Of course, there has to be complementarity. All systems of medicines have to work closely together. Then only we can achieve any fruitful long-term impact. I think that is the key takeaway in all this discussion. Mohan Menon, sir, would you like to come in? Sir, are you online? I think there is a bit of a loss of connectivity. Jalkumari, madam, would you like to contribute further on this?
Yeah, what Akshay was telling, really, I am also joining with him, because what he was telling is very true. Because scientific evidence is not just belief. Scientific evidence and urgent research and everything is needed for implementing such medicines in particular in this particular situation. That may be one of the reasons. People are not ready to take risks. That may be one of the reasons for this. Anyway, we can expect that this type of pandemic situations will come again, and all medical field people will be ready, maybe getting ready to face that situation through their medicines in a scientific way. Even Ayurveda can also do like that in later stages. That may be our expectation.
That is exactly what I was also stating, that complementarity of medical systems are very important in a country like India, and especially in
I think integration is needed, sir. Always, that is what we are thinking that.
Exactly.
In diagnosis and all, allopathy and modern medicine is very effective and very excellent.
Exactly.
But in the long-term treatment and other things, for that, Ayurveda is best.
Exactly. Very true.
That may be integrated. That interdisciplinary, it is not interdisciplinary, two ways only. Strategical integration is needed for. That's what we are expecting in later stages. The medical people have to be concentrate. They may concentrate on these type of researches, and new labs, medical labs are also to be generated, to be developed for developing medicines in Ayurveda, for especially cancer-like cell degenerating diseases can be cured, because genetical disorders also can be cured through this Ayurveda than allopathy. That's a proven thing also. But the sudden effect is the biggest thing.
Very true.
Yeah, we are expecting like that. That type of medical developments will be there later. That also has to be concentrated.
Exactly.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your intervention. Mohammed Mubarak, sir.
Sir, am I audible?
You are very much audible, sir.
Okay, sir. Very congratulations, Miss Parvathy. Very fantastic expression, and congratulations. I just compare this today's webinar by a Tamil slogan. தாயை போல் சேயும் நூலை போல் சேலையும் என்று சொல்வார்கள். இங்கே சரியான போட்டி, அம்மாவுக்கும் மகளுக்கும் சரியான போட்டி. புரிந்தவர்களுக்கு புரிந்திருக்கும். Okay, anyhow, congratulations. My opinion, each and every person have their own physiological, biological, pharmaceutical, behavioral disorders. But actually, the medicines are materials based. Those are blended with other technology. The mission is something good, presented by our guest today, Miss Parvathy. Very fantastic mission, and her vision is also very fantastic. Best presentation and a good preparation in all words and PPT also. She provided the apt information, because I too a pharmaceutical biological disorder person. I affected the cardiac something. I also used a stent in heart patient. Many occasions I am just withdrawing to mingle with others, but some information, very keen information provided by Miss Parvathy related with the neurological disorders also, very apt and which is informative. Anyhow, congratulations and wish you all the best in your lifelong other activities. Thank you, Miss Parvathy and the entire team, and especially Sri Rajesh sir. Our COVID-19 webinar series is marvelous programs. Congratulations to the entire team. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that wonderful intervention, and we will hope to keep this light going forward. Thank you, and thank you for your enthusiastic participation in every webinar that we have been holding. Thank you once again, sir. If anyone wants to make any point, I think Satheesh Chetan is also online. Chetan, would you like to come in?
ചാറ്റിൽ എന്താ കമന്റ് ഇട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു തോന്നുന്നു.
അതെ ഞാൻ എനിക്ക് തോന്നി
ഓഫീസിലാണ് ആളുകൾ മുന്നിലുണ്ടെന്നൊന്നും പറഞ്ഞല്ലേ.
അതെ കുഴപ്പമില്ല. Thank you Satheesh for joining us. എന്തോ ഞാൻ ഇടയ്ക്ക് അദ്ദേഹത്തിനെ കണ്ടായിരുന്നു, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാൻ വിചാരിച്ച് ഇൻവൈറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ, പേഴ്സണലായിട്ട് എന്നെ സംസാരിക്കാമല്ലോ. I think now I think there is some loss in connectivity. No problem. I congratulate both the parents for giving the right background to Parvathy and freedom to choose her own line of studies, which is so important. And I hope in future also she will be able to deliver the goods. I think we have had an exhaustive interaction today. So many issues were discussed, so many aspects were conclusively framed. And it is not every day that we have a vibrant interaction like this. Now, may I request Praveen, our assistant registrar. Praveenji, could you kindly come in and present a vote of thanks?
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. Today's lecture on COVID-19 and its long-term effects, a medical perspective, research scholar Mr. Satheesh was an eye-opener for most of us present here. The technical details of coronavirus and its effects on organs have been very well explained by the presenter. Thank you, madam. Thanks Professor Mohan Menon sir, Dr. Dorothy, Regional Director, Dr. Sugma sir, Trivandrum, parents of Parvathy, Raja Kumari, and valuable institute. I thank all the academics of Vatakara for active participation. I thank all the cooperative the learners and guests for their participation. I thank Dr. Rajesh, Regional Director, RC Vatakara, for organizing the webinar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you for this very brief, but hello, Praveen, are you online?
Yeah, sir, very much.
Would you like to contribute something more?
Sir, that's it, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, you are audible, Praveen.
Yeah, sir. That's it from my end, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you very much.
And it was indeed a wonderful webinar that we had today. So many issues, so many aspects with relation to COVID, the scientific aspects of COVID. Those were all discussed threadbare by Ms. Parvathy. Parvathy, once again, on my personal behalf and on behalf of IGNOU Region Center, Vatakara, Cochin and Trivandrum, I would like to thank you for your wonderful presentation. It was an eye-opener for us on many of the aspects related to COVID-19. Many of us being lay persons in the field would on a regular basis be discussing newspaper reports and many other aspects like that one-to-one interaction, but we never could get the scientific perspective behind all these discussions. But you have made this very clear today as I mentioned right in the beginning, when I received this presentation, I was in fact thoughtful about the scientific aspect, but I thought it would be flying much above our heads because it's a truly scientific area. But you made it very clear. You made you made the presentation in a layman's language, which made it much more easier for us to understand the nitty-gritty of the whole issue. You have made the social issues very clear, the biological issues very clear, and even the social science aspect has also been dealt with in some detail. Thank you, Parvathy, and I wish you all the very best in your life ahead. Let your research programs get better and better year after year. And I'm sure with your potential, the kind of potential that you have, you will achieve and scale great heights. Thank you, and I also wish you all the best in life. I also thank all the other participants who have joined in this program. I wish, I know that without their active interaction and active participation, this program would not have achieved the kind of success that it has achieved. Thank you, one and all, and I wish to see you in the future programs as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Let us leave.
Yeah, sure. Most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Prasida, and please join us in our future sessions as well.